So did Klubnik. But this is from, there's 2 or 3 different accounts, Garrett, on USC and the media availability from Shotgun Spratling. For the first time in the 14 years I've been covering USC, the school did not make any players available to speak with the media. Inside Troy, that's our good friend Ryan Abraham. We'll have somebody from that site on tomorrow. Said it's the first time in his 20-plus years that no players were made available to speak. They had a heartbreaking loss to Utah. Williams scored late in the game to give them the lead. Then Utah drives down the field. Bryson Barnes with a huge run that gets them in field position to kick the field goal. They do it. Now, is this Lincoln Riley protecting his players, or is this players did not want to talk to the media? And what kind of look is this?
It's a bad look. Look, you can't, trot them out there after a win and not have them go out there after a tough loss. I mean, it's also a life lesson. Like, sometimes you have to go out and face it when you've had a tough one. And Lincoln Riley should know this. And, the way he's trying to guard, USC like they're a corporate company covering up a friggin' oil spill is ridiculous. Like, I don't understand what you gain by this. It's only going to make it worse. And, the 3 of us have had to sit in locker rooms many times or in post-game and talk to players after they lose games. They have to do that. Look, with your team full NFL players, they all have to do that when they get there in a very short amount of time. Caleb Williams next year is going to have to do that every time. And if he walks away, he's going to get fined. So the lesson you're teaching them is it's fine to run away sometimes. You and I, Smokey, sat in a locker room in Oklahoma City waiting for Brittany Griner to come out and talk after they lost in the postseason. And, yeah, I know it's tough. It sucks. Nobody likes to lose. We don't. Like, even if you're a completely impartial journalist, it's really one of the harder parts of your job to go in and talk to somebody when they're upset about a big loss. So, yeah, it sucks for everyone, but we all have to get through it.
Well, and Brittany eventually did come out, and she did interview, get an interview with the media. Craig, Caleb Williams, obviously defending Heisman Trophy. Isn't there also a role that he plays of representing that trophy? This doesn't mean it was Caleb Williams saying, hey, I don't want to talk. Maybe it was. He was emotional. I don't know. Your thoughts about USC. And we've seen now Riley dismiss, at least for a week, a member of the media. And in this case now, not allowing players to be available.
Well, I mean, my first thought is I understand why we're talking about this, and I do have thoughts on it, but I think the big story out of that game was Utah winning.
We were going to get to that. We will get to that.
I want to make sure that that's the big point made is that what an incredible job by Kyle Whittingham and Bryson Barnes, who we saw not be very good and ended up being very good in that game. But Lincoln Riley's soft. Lincoln Riley teams are soft. I think it's evident watching Oklahoma this year. And, yeah, it wasn't great last year as they made that transition, but, I mean, what a night and day version of the Sooners you see compared to his teams. And his teams had lots of success. But I think if they were anything in the long run that prevented them from being more of what they could have been, it was that they were a bit soft in comparison to those they eventually ran up against. I think Lincoln Riley's a great football mind. I think he's a good head coach. I do think he's out, though, a little bit over his skis. I don't know what's happened the last few years with him, but just his personality's kind of rubbed people the wrong way, and just some of his actions are very questionable and just not quite the guy in some ways that I remember first really liking when he was, crowned Oklahoma's new head coach. And I think it's a soft look. I think it's kind of become commonplace with that program now. I think it's, a matter of losing, bringing out the true colors in people. And I don't know who made the decision, if it was Caleb Williams or Lincoln Riley or whoever on, who would go out there or they didn't have to go out there. Again, that, like y'all said, that's something that the NFL will force Caleb Williams to have to do. But again, I'm not going to really try to put a target on him or put any blame on him, because in that moment, if the coach came in and said, like, hey, you guys don't have to speak to the media, or you don't speak to the media, then they're just following orders. But I just think overall it's a soft look by USC. I think that they'd be more than happy to go out there had they won that game. And the fact that they lost and all of a sudden they want to pout is indicative of just sort of where they are. And yeah, that was a tough loss. But you know what? They're lucky they had a chance at the end of the game to even make that interesting, because the way they played, they really didn't deserve a chance at the end of that game so much. So yeah, that's a bad look, and I'm sure it'll be brushed off on his end, and it's the media's fault or something along those lines. But yeah, I just think that was important. That was a poor choice in the heat of a tough loss.
All right, so here's Kyle Whittingham, Josh Furlong on the tweet. Kyle Whittingham with an all-time quote in the postgame. They've got a Heisman Trophy winner at quarterback, so they're going to make some things. And that's just the way it is. But we've got ourselves a pig farmer at quarterback, so we're proud of that guy too. What a great quote, and what a run by Barnes, who also threw the pick six that kind of put USC back in a mode to be able to win, or at least have a chance to win that game.
I'm very impressed with Bryson Barnes, considering that just over a month and a half ago, I was sitting next to Craig at the Baylor-Utah game, and I turned to Craig and goes, "This guy sucks." That's what I said. Quote, like, I'm not going to back off of what I said. He was playing awful against Baylor. And Utah didn't really even make me think they were going to win that game until they put Johnson in, the other quarterback.
Or until Baylor never separated.
Yeah, but, I just never thought, I was like, man, Utah, this guy's playing himself right out of the lineup here. And, they're sitting there, trying to pray to the football guys to heal Cam Rising right now to get him in shoulder pads and get him in this game, because that was bad offensively. But, man, he's come a long way in a few weeks. But it also speaks to USC's defense that there is not a single lead they have that is safe. Not one. And especially if it's against a Utah team that has your number anyway late in the game. Like, I knew when Utah got the ball back, I was like, well, Utah's going to at least get in field goal range, and then USC's best hope is that he misses the kick.
Yeah.
Well, it was an incredible score, as quick as it happened by Caleb Williams. It just happened way too fast.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for them to answer, and make it that interesting there at the end and take the lead was pretty exciting stuff. But you look at the clock and you're like, oh dang, there's like a whole minute and tons of change left in this game, and it just you didn't have faith in that defense, because again, they're soft, and that defense is soft, and defenses under Lincoln Riley have remained soft. And I'm not trying to pick on him, but I just think that was a bad look, and that was a tough loss. So I get that emotions were heated, but Caleb Williams still was able to make a little bit of magic. But yeah, I think when you watch that defense, or you watch when things are going sideways, they're not the most formidable team or scariest team in the world. They have some obvious flaws, and Utah was able to focus in on those and expose those, and also just grind it out. And that was Jaquindon Jackson having 100 rush yards. The guy never gets really much any attention outside of probably Salt Lake City, because he doesn't have a bunch of touchdowns, but he's a consistent for them on the ground. Bryson Barnes coming from where he was when we saw him, as Paul pointed out, in Waco a few weeks back. He's made obvious strides with having more snaps under center. My gosh, Sione Vaki, the two-way star who deserves all of the praise for his performance. That's just, Utah football's a tough brand, man, and they're not one you want to take into a showdown if you don't have your guns ready and your muscles going and you're ready for a fight. And I don't know how much of a fight USC was ready for, but they still got the talent and explosiveness to make things interesting. And, in the end, though, Utah was just a tougher, better team, better coach team, and they're going to be a great addition to the Big 12 come next season.
I love the way they play the ball. And it's not because they're old school, because they can be new school too, or the new age. Kyle Whittingham also saying that Rising, who has not played, is shut down. He is not. So no more week to week is he going to play or not. We have about a minute here before we take a break.
Well, and so is Brant Keithy. So their two best players, arguably, heading into this season, certainly on offense, are both not even playing a single down this year. And that's unfortunate, but you look at where they are despite that, and that just even more so screams of how excellent of a program and well-coached team they are under Kyle Whittingham. So, yeah, that's a blow, and yet here they are, still very much in the mix and beating USC regardless. But that sucks, and at the same time, I'm glad to know that, so we can all just move on and they can focus, and it's Barnes and Johnson if need be, and no more of this speculation week to week. But good luck to Cam Rising and getting healthy, especially with pro aspirations, I'd imagine.
All right, we're going to have a little bit later on.